Okay, now it's recording. All right, so what we'll do now, basically, we start stylizing things. If you know what you're doing, you can just go over to your styles and start typing things. For example, you can type body tag, and then in curly brackets, you can give it a color and whatnot. If you're quite new to CSS, you can use the shortcuts, which is here, which is super convenient. So you need to look here. So your body tag, for example, is here, right? You've already got it. So you select it, hit plus. By default, because my mouse was on body, it creates it for you. You just click off that, and then you see all the properties that you can set. So you've got here anything to do with layout. If you hover over it, it'll show you. Text, anything to do with text, fonts, sizes, color of font, anything to do with borders of objects, and anything to do with a background. And you even have things like gradients and things. So just for the sake of the experiment, I'll change the background color of your whole page to some random peach. I'll hit enter. Oops. Try again. There we go. See how that changed the color of your HTML document?
Yeah.
So all I did, that happened here. So all I did was click on the body, the tag I want to style. I hit plus to make a new selector. And if I click on it, you can even hit show set, and that'll only show what you've applied, not the whole options of what you have at your disposal. So if you ever want to come back and just change the color, you can just see show set. Or you can go here now and you'll see, body, curly brackets, background color, RGBA, and the color code that it's given you. It's really as simple as that. The important thing is first to create your whole structure like you did in the 429 unit, and then stylize. So here comes the header. You've got a yellow header that seems to have the text centered, and we'll make the text as well. So I'll click anywhere inside this header tag. I'll go to selectors and hit plus. See, it's put in a hashtag which represents IDs. It's done the hard work for you. I've deselected it, reselected to see my options. I'll just turn that off. So I know that the background of your header is yellow, so I'll go and set the color. It's really from here onwards, it's a matter of knowing what these elements are, but at least you don't need to know the code. You had a lovely yellow there. I'll just hit enter so you can see the background already. And then I'll go to layout. So I'll set a height, pixel value, maybe, I don't know, 100 pixels. Does that look right to you? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Text, you wanted the text in there to be centered, right?
Yes.
So I'll hit T for text and I'll center that. See, it's pushed it to the middle. And then you've got one thing that seems to confuse people here. If I want to center this vertically, you've got margins and padding. So margin is that, see how it's got by default, it's pushed off the edges slightly. It's not touching the edge of the document. So margin is the gap between the object and the outside region. So if I click here to activate it, I'll just set that to 0 and 0. So my margins will be 0 when we test it. Now the padding is the inside. If I want to push my text down a bit, I need to set a padding off the top. Let's say 20 pixels. See how it's pushed it down now?
Yeah.
I'll make it 60 maybe. Whatever value you set here adds to the general height of your object. That's the important thing to remember. So as I set 60 pixels, it's pushed it down, but it's actually added to the height of my entire container. I'll just change this to design mode. See how you can see that grayed area? So I'm just looking at this in design view so I can actually access and click things. So if I add then 60 to my padding, I need to take that out of my height. So 40 plus 60 gives me 100. So that's a little bit low. So it's a matter of experimenting a little bit. Make this 50. Maybe 40. Anyway, I think you get the gist.
Yeah.
There we go. I wanted to make the text, for example, a bit bigger, so I'll go T for text, font size. You can set a pixel value to it, or you can choose sizes from large and medium and whatnot. Font weight, maybe bold. You can make that extra large. And so it goes. I don't know about your pink background, I might actually kill that. So if you don't like something, you can hover over it and you can disable it to see if you like it or not temporarily, or you can delete it. So it's always good to disable things if you're not sure. That's also handy if you don't know what's going on in the page and what's causing something. You can disable to test to see if it's fixed it. I'll just go save all. And then we can test this in a browser because that's the ultimate way of knowing if it worked or not. It's gone over here. There we go. So there's your page so far. The header's there, the rest isn't. And then the next step would be to create your ULLIs, which is your navigation menu. So with your navigation, you've got a green background, don't you? Do you remember?
Yes. Yes.
A light green background you've got with a black border.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think the best way to do that is to make the nav green with a black border and then have the text centered and divided. So it's a matter of experimenting. And until you learn this, you'll go through a lot to experiment to see what works and what doesn't. So when I look at that, I think, see, I've clicked my nav anywhere on there.
Yeah.
And then I'll go and hit my selectors, hit plus, my nav. So it's created that ID for me. I'll just deselect, reselect. First thing is I want that lime green for the background. When you're setting colors and all these properties, you just need to hit enter once and it's going to apply it for you. Okay, so there's the green. And then remember I said borders are here. So if you want to have a border, maybe thin and maybe black. And style needs to be solid for it to even appear. And there's your border.
Awesome.
So file, save all. You could just center that text if you wanted to, but I think there's a better way to go about it. And just test this in a browser. It's the ultimate way of knowing how it all looks. A website that's really handy when you are working with CSS and you have no idea what to do. So Dreamweaver's got the basic elements here. So for example, the properties of my nav, you've got this layout, minimum height, minimum width, if you have no idea what they're all about. So by the way, floating is alignment. If you want to center something, float it to the left or to the right, it's float. There's no align. You can align text, see your paragraph, text align. But for the div container itself, so this object, you use floating to left or right. What I wanted to show you was WC3 CSS. This is super helpful because anything you need, for example, CSS margins, you're wondering, oh my God, with text, I don't know what to do. You can come here and it teaches you everything. So example, how to color something. The text actually was in your assessment too. So if you wanted the entire color of your text to be blue, what would you do? You actually set it to the body. The reason for that is because the body tag surrounds everything, all the content, right? That's why if you wanted to set your website color, text color, you would assign that to the body. But if you need anything, once we hang up the phone, the Skype, this is a great place to come. Links. if you want to make buttons, because this is something you would want to do for your website. And I've got them all here waiting for you. They're inside this object, your nav. I've got all of your buttons here. And the next thing, I will leave this for you to do, is how do you make them into buttons that if you hover over them, they can actually change color. So it gives you examples of different things. See, that one is you hover over it, it's got an underline. That one, the underline appears on hover. This one actually changes color, which is great. It's probably what you want. And it gives you the code. So something like this, to show you how would you use it. You would read it, background color. We need to make them active first. So if it's a home, if I click on it, you have to link them first. So your home page would really be linked to this page itself, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's what you use to create your HTML website, but whether you just type here index.html, see how it makes it a hyperlink?
Yeah.
And it adds an A tag because now it's got a H reference. And then you can even highlight here, you can highlight your code, doesn't matter. So page music. You will create another page called music.html. So you can just link it directly here. And then bio will be your biography. The link, well, call it bio.html. It's very important that when you do create the pages that you don't misspell them and go off these links that we've created. Okay? And then fan club, I'll make a link. No spaces, fanclub.html. Right. So now I've got my links here, and then if you go to that website for help, it shows you, so a link and a visitor, the background color is that color, it's white, so I'm going to actually copy this entire thing. Because I've got now an A tag in my website, it's a little cheat. I'm going to go here to your CSS code view and simply paste it here. Okay. See that? So it's brought all the properties over for you. So the padding is probably a bit too much. That's what's making it look so fat, because it's adding height to what was originally there. But I mean, this is something you can play with. I mean, you don't need to have that crazy padding there. You can just, yeah, you can even take the padding away. I would leave, oh, by the way, see how it's been added here? As soon as I pasted it here, you've got it here. So if you're not sure about code, you can always come here and say, all right, show me the set. Shows you our display is inline block. For inline block makes them display as little containers. So you definitely want that. The padding, it's got 25 pixels to the left and right, and then 14 from top and bottom. I'll just disable these because I'll disable that as well. Let's have a look. So now it's looking much better. I took away the padding so it sits in there comfortably. Okay? Yeah. Your colors are quite ugly, so you can go in there and go, oh, what's with the color? And you can change that. You had like a darker green.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm not sure if that made any sense to you what I did, but basically in my HTML, as soon as I made them A tags, so links, I could simply copy and paste the reference to A, which is a link. If you like, you can delete that entire thing and try something else. Try that one. When you hover over it and when it's active, the background color will change to red or any color you like. All right? What else have you got? You've got text color here, so you've got H1. If you're not sure how to set color properties actually to your H tag, so you've got text align here, center. You've got, so let's say, let's play with your H1 because we've got it. So I'm going to steal that. We're going to center your heading. I think it's meant to be centered anyway. So I'll come to the CSS file again. Just push enter and paste that in. See how it's centered it now? If I wanted to add an additional property, I've just clicked on this and it takes me here. So I can go, oh, okay, well, text. I can see that you're centered. Maybe I'll change your font family. Maybe I'll make you a different font. So there you go. Let's change the font. And you see that it adds another line of code here for you. So wherever possible, try and use these. Have an experiment. If it starts looking weird, just disable it or delete it. Try not to touch the code itself until you know what you're looking at. Once you get, these are all CSS properties like font family, text align, display. When you realize what they're responsible for, then you can start typing code straight in there. But, you know, for now you're exploring what your CSS options even are, which is all these things. And I think working with this and with the CSS schools is a good way to get started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Righty. Because my menu thing at the moment is all pushed to the left.
Yes.
What would I have to play with to make it stretch out over the whole thing?
Okay. So first of all, because I haven't set a width, it's basically fitting the whole screen. You need to decide whether you want your whole website to be centered. So if I just, hang on, let me see, where's the untitled document. So at the moment, you see how, as I change that, it's responsive?
Yeah.
Do you want this thing to float in the middle always and be a certain distance from each other? Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So then, because it has a green border, well, we can just give it padding to push it to the center. Or it needs to be inside a separate container, I think. I'm just thinking out loud, but it's a good question. You know what? I'll do this for you because there's no way you're going to figure it out. I'm going to highlight your links because I've got them now in containers anyway.
Yeah.
My nav will display the color, so I don't want to touch that because it's looking right already. But I'm going to put your buttons in another container that I can go and center because your button widths should be what they are. They should not stretch out. Otherwise, they're going to have really weird big gaps between them, if that makes any sense. So I've just selected your buttons and I'm going to go Insert, Div. And it says Wraparound Selection, which is what I want. And I'll call this Centered. So this ID will be responsible for centering your menu. We'll only do this once, so don't worry. And then I'm going to go to Selectors. Hit plus. So my nav centered. I'll just get rid of that. Alright, so then margins. To center, this is another trick by the way. If you want to center things to the area that it's in, you set the left and right margin to auto. And that should push it to the center. Or not. What's going on? There we go. I'll just test this, make sure. Save all. Refresh. There we go. So is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yes.
Okay. So just looking at your Dreamweaver file. It's getting there, slowly but surely. Now, if you wanted to put a background image to this, yeah, you just have to think about what you want to do, because at the moment, the good thing is it's responsive. The bad thing is if you want to insert a background image at the back of that, it has to work. It has to be big enough for it to stretch right out. So I'll just find something. What was your theme anyway for the bands?
I don't know. I just picked ones I knew.
Okay, that's okay. Music background. I just want you to go away and have a little play with it, and then I'll help you with the rest as well. I just want to get a nice big image, and I'll show you how to stick that in the background. View image. That's not help. I'll just take an image. By the way, in your website, always make sure you keep all of your images inside an images folder. I don't remember if you did that for your HTML site. So whenever you save any images and add them in, always keep it in the one place, okay? Okay, so I've already got that header. For me to place an image inside that, I'll just find it from my list here. So that's all the objects we created. And then I go to background. So instead of background color, I can choose, where is it? Background image, so enter URL, which is a folder. Come on. Takes me to your website. I'll choose that. And I'll hit open, and I can only see a bit of it because it's such a big image. So if you wanted to, I would turn off no repeat, otherwise it tiles it across. Background position, you can even reposition it if you wanted to. So if I say minus 25%. So I've just pushed it up so you can see that other part of it. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll just save this file. Okay, I can't see your text, so you'll have to find the right image. But yeah, that's basically, see, that's the edge of the image.
Yeah.
And then you can see the yellow background. I think, do you want it to be a stretchy type of a website, or do you want it to be a fixed width? That's something you need to decide now, because later it just gets a bit messy.
Yeah, I'd probably make it a stretchy one.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, I think your header 1 text should probably not be black. Just change it so at least you can see it. Okay. Whatever color. So, yeah, what I'll get you to do, have a little play with your navigation. Start dropping content in. So this is your index page. Your next page, for example, because you've got one there with images and everything. Oh, and you've got a form in there. The form you'll be right to make?
Yeah, I've made it.
Cool, you've done it once before, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to get it laid out as I had it in my Photoshop picture.
Yeah. So what you can do, I'll just show you quickly. So I'll make a, you know what? I've got this file already. Let's say I'm happy with it for my website. What I would do next is do File, Save As, because all my links are there. And I'm going to call this, oh, sorry, I'm on the CSS one. I should be here, source code. Save As, and what page was it? Music. Yeah, music is where you've got your images left aligned. So I'll call it music. So what happened, your index page is that when I save as, it created another file with a different name but copied the content. Does that make sense? So when you make your other pages, you just go File, Save As, Fan Club, File, Save As, Bio. And basically you can just change them. All you need to change is the content area. You can leave the header stuff be, so you don't need to replicate it or copy and paste. Okay. With this one, you said with the alignment of stuff, what you can do, I'll leave the footer because you'll probably need that. Maybe you need the heading as well, I don't know. I'll just delete the paragraphs. You can insert a table if you wanted to, or you can insert div tags, so I'll leave that up to you. So with the table, you can have, I'm just looking at that page where you've got the objects. So there's 4 rows of them, and then you've got images to the left and paragraphs to the right. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll just show you what I'm looking at. That one. And you've got the rating and you've got the links and stuff. So
yes.
It would help if there was a little image we could use so I could show you. So with this one, I think it's better to use actually div containers for this as well. So let's do that. So let's go to insert. If we make one setup, then you can copy and paste that. I think it's best.
Rightio.
Okay. we'll call this a class because we're going to, basically what I'll do is I'll make this little structure where you've got an image to the left, text to the right, and then you can copy and paste that object 4 times over. All right. So it's a class because we'll reuse it 4 times for every album that you enter. I'll just call it albums. Okay, so there's the main container. In there you'll have the image sitting to the left. So I think we'll make an image tag for that. I'm just thinking out loud. So you've got an image container for it, so I'll just click that. Let's make a div. I don't have any images to insert. Better do this. So class album images. I'm being overcorrect right now. Okay. And then you've got text to the right of that, and then you've got the rating and whatnot. Is there a title under the image as well? There is.
Yeah, there was a link because I was like, if you want to be really, make sure you can get everywhere you want. So like, link under the page was so you can go straight to that artist. And I had other links on the other side to other CDs that you may be interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what I've done is basically, you can't see it in layout yet, but inside a div called album here.
Yeah.
That's the big container. I put in one object that's for the image and one for the text. So it'll start making sense to you if you just watch here, because you'll just have to copy and paste it. So with my CSS designer, first thing we'll do, I guess we'll leave the width of this big container as is. I don't need to do anything with the album itself. Album image, I'll make a selector. So your images will need to be a set width and height. Do you know how to do that in Photoshop? Let's say 80 pixels by 80 pixels. So a little container, for example, that size. Yeah?
Yeah.
Or maybe 100 pixels. Looks a bit small. I'll give it a background color for now so you know what it actually is. You don't end up getting confused. So at the moment it's just a container, a placeholder for your images that you can later insert. If your images happen to be bigger than the container, it's not a problem, it'll just bleed over out of it. But it's always better when you do have images and you say, alright, I want them to be 200 by 200, just change that into CSS. When you look here, just browse through your list. I've tried to name them as clearly as possible, so you should know what it is. So album images is that little container. Should they be a bit bigger still? They look pretty small compared to what you've got in your layout. Maybe something like that. Right. Your album text should be, at the moment it's floating over the top because we haven't aligned anything anywhere. So by default, it doesn't know what to do. So what I'll do is with the image, I'll float this to the left, the container, and then you'll see it allows for the text to be bumping up against it. Okay, so what we'll do next is album text plus, don't want all this other stuff, I just want album text, and I want to float that to the left as well. Okay, so I'll just delete that. You don't need text in there. Is there a heading as well? I mean, you can put a H1 or H2 and paragraphs or whatever you want in here. I'll just put that in. So your H1 will be here. Maybe H2. Because I guess you'll write like a little blurb, the title of your album.
Yeah.
So album title. And then a paragraph. Sorry, let me just look. So, class is album. That's the end of that. Delete this. And then I've got album image. You'll insert your image in here. I'll just leave it here. So when you get to it, this is the responsible div for your image. So when you come here, album image, you'll go here, insert image, and that's where that'll be inserted in that container. Okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. If you get confused, just let me know. And then album text contains a paragraph.
I'm just done with Hamara. I'll be out in a minute.
And the text should also be followed to the left. It's just that something is not looking right here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better. Oh, your footer's floating over the top because we haven't created anything for that. So unless you align things, everything sits over the top of each other. So it's very important to align things. So with the footer, I haven't even created a selector for it yet. My footer, there it is. And I'll float that to the left as well. So that's been pushed over now. And I'll make the width of this 100% so it doesn't interfere with anything else.
So
it's gone to yeah. So now it's been pushed down below everything else. So here we go. I mean, there's not much text here. If you want to make this nice and wide, your album, you can shuffle these around too, by the way. So in the right order. Album images, album text, and then my footer. So with album text, I guess you want it to be at least 600 pixels wide. If you're going to go with percentages, you need to make sure you're consistent. So that can't be a pixel value and that a percentage. It just messes everything up. So, but you don't want to do that because with your image, it's going to be a set pixel value anyway. So there it is, that's 600 pixels. I mean, if you want to make it whatever you want, it's up to you, but anyway. So then when you're ready and you say, all right, well, I've got 3 or 4 albums in here, you simply copy and paste that entire object. So you've got here album, and you see where the closing div is?
Yeah.
You've got 3 or 4 albums, you just copy that entire thing.
And then just change content.
So I've now put it in 3 times over each other. So something that's not working is because things are not left floating, they're going over each other. Let me just quickly insert in the right place. I will make a selector for albums for that entire container that has the image and the text. And I'll make it be on its own. And you can do that by clearing both sides so it sits there on its own. That forces the other object. See how it's pushed it out of its way? Now it's looking a bit better. And maybe even give it a margin so the images don't touch each other. But once you enter enough text, it's going to push things off anyway. But just to show you, so I don't want those image containers touching each other. I'm just going to give it maybe a 5 pixel margin.
Padding.
Margin. So you'll see the margin is outside of that container. Padding is inside.
Okay.
So from the outer edge of it, it's added 5 pixels. Do you see the structures coming together slowly?
Yes.
Kind of. I think I won't do any more because I'll end up doing your website for you. So I'll leave it at that. I think you have the basic structure anyway. Look, the rest of the pages, they are left floating, so it's just a matter of changing objects. Your form is here. Insert form object, so text and email and password. And for that, you can use a table, or you can use div containers like this, you know. I think if you can misuse these image containers for your form, you can even use exactly the same layout. So instead of having a red background, just make that white And you can type text in here and put the form field in here. So still it will work just fine. But, you know, do me a favor, set up your home page, stylize it a little bit, insert some images. Yeah, and let me know how you go. If you get stuck with anything, just email me, zip your website up and email it to me and let me have a look to see what the issue is. I think you'll only really learn once you start playing around with it yourself. It's not a bad idea to try and do your own version of this entire thing, to add